So welcome everyone to week 2 of BRO. We just finished the premium, and I think we had some great results. Congratulations, guys! Top 3, all WCC. First place, Kevin Cho. Yeah, it's
right there in the middle.
That's right. Center stage. Second place with Toby, right?
The other man,
Kevin a bit, and then third place with Steven to the left, right over there at the bottom left. So congratulations, guys, did well. And Kevin as well did top AO, and then Tyler, topped AO and no, not AO, he topped EU and NA as well. So yeah, that's a pretty good effort, guys. Pretty good effort. Lots of winning happening. That's good, right? That's good. So great effort. Let's just do some introductions first. We'll go from the top. We'll start with Cam. How about you start?
Howdy, I'm Big Cam. Just started here about a couple months ago. It's been a great time here. We're gonna move on to the next person.
Hey, as you guys know, I'm Derek. I brought Prism. I went X2 in all 3 tournaments and dropped.
Yeah, Kelvin, go.
Hello, my name's Kelvin, not Kevin. And I brought Prism to all 3 regions. Got X2 in EO, got 10th place in EU. It's kind of the 10th place. Yes. Then I fell asleep on NA while going X1. So yeah, it's been a great event.
Feels bad, man. Kevin?
Hi, I'm Kevin Cho. I got top 8 in AO with Prism, and I got top 8 in NA with Prism as well. I got first place.
Nice. Mark?
Hey, I'm Yi Hero Bobbleman.
Oh, snap.
I went X2 drop in AO, and then I went X2 into 14th place in EU, and another X2 into 9th place in NA. So it looks like I'm changing my name now.
Steven?
Guys, I'm Steven. Always know as Sewell. Play Angels. And, I got top 8 in NA.
Nice.
Even better, you got top 3.
Oh, top 3, yeah. I got the Chrono Gem.
That's right. Toby?
Hey, Toby here, leading on from Steven's third. I managed to get second in NA. And yeah, I participated in all 3 tournaments, but clearly my best result was in NA this time around.
Nice. And lastly, Tyler?
Hello, I'm Tyler. I X2'd with Prism and AO, then top 8'd in EU with Angels, and then top 8'd in NA with Prism.
Nice. All right, so I think everyone did pretty well, and some definitely did better than others. Let's talk about the decks that everyone bought. I think there's basically 2 camps here. That is the Prism camp and the Angel camp, right? So how about we just start with the Prisms, right? Why did everyone take Prisms, and do you think it was like the best deck? Someone can start?
Yes. Snap call, literally the best. It's I don't know, like to me it's like while I did go X2 in NA, just the thought process behind it is like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of deck thinning, like with Rosa and like Nectaria and stuff, getting stuff out of the deck. There's a lot of drawing, and with Spiana putting like grade 3 heal triggers back in the deck whenever the deck starts to get low, like deck's kind of insane.
Yeah,
a little busted. I think it's the best deck, and it's not close.
I think it's an important metric to realize as well is that it's not just like looking at the top 8 results for these big major tournaments with 200, 300 people. If you look a bit under as well to the top 16 even, you'll see a lot of like Prisms there too. Sometimes even some like Gabriel hanging in there too. Much more than other decks, right? And that comes from the conversion rating because Prism is heavily played, right? But that's also just because of how potent it is as a deck. Mm-hmm. I consider it honestly the most consistent deck that appears in the format. I would say probably outside of Gabriel's because they have specific search requirements for their pieces. So it's easy to see why both are just so highly rated and played and powerful, right? With Gabriel having their one-shot potential and Prism's being this consistent powerhouse that, as Bermuda does, have all these other plays and ways to go about the game, whether they just want to have a core consistent game or even just be able to run different variants to be able to do so many other things, right? You have so many of these choices to still be in the top tier deck. So that's why I think Prisms, for the longest time, has just been such a strong contender.
Kevin, anything you want to add? You took it home. You took it home.
Yeah, I think it's just a really oppressive deck, being really good defensively in like all the matchups possible, right? Like, and being so consistent, it's just like a very obvious top contender for the format.
Okay, all right.
I actually want to say a opposing opinion. So
Hot takes.
I think Prism is not necessarily the best deck in terms of power level, but it's definitely like what you guys are saying, the most consistent deck that is in the format at the moment, which I think is what the reason why we all took it, or at least most of us.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a pure power level perspective, I think there are definitely decks that's above it, like Lua, arguably, what you call it, Plon, Melody, as well. Those decks has a very good chance of beating Prism, but then at the same time, those decks also have a very good chance of just beating themselves.
I think even Spectral fits in that category too.
Yeah. So I think because of that, we didn't want to take those decks, not especially when like taking it into a 9-8 extremely long tournament, right?
Yeah.
So Prism is not like super up there, like just crapping on everyone with its unbeatable power level, but it's so good at doing what it's doing and consistent in doing what it's doing that makes it a more favorable choice than anything else, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like even in EU, you saw like people take Messiahs, which is arguably lower power, but in terms of, like high roll potential, if you get lucky, you hit a restand and you basically win, right? It's GG from there. So
How died in
I
my
think
round 1 AO. Got high roll by the monk. He got the
I think like the whole I think like to add on like the Prism thing, like the whole like power level thing, I think just the consistency thing is like obviously like the main part about it. It's just every single turn, even going second seems so. It seems like it can be like really like a really pivotal turn. Just even early on, like if you hit a Liselet turn 1, like on grade 1, you rush your opponent, you get a lucky card off the top of your deck, and then you have an Aqua in hand for turn 2. You have a full field turn 2. Like for no cards out of hand, like it's just wow, holy moly, that deck's big.
Yeah, I
That
just want
is
to add
big.
to that with the deck choices, as everyone else has been saying, and especially with Mark's opinion, I quite agree that it is not the exact tier S deck, like what a lot of people think. There are a lot of potent decks, but there's a big difference between bringing a deck to a game and bringing a deck to a tournament where you have 8-9 rounds. And if you count top 8, that's like 10 rounds. You can bring the high potent decks like Melody, even Granblue to an extent, and Luward, and then you can start questioning yourself. Out of those 10 rounds, how many games can I afford not riding the right grade 3 or even the right grade 2 or G assisting? And then from there, you're like, okay, I don't really want to be that guy who just, I hate my day because I misride. So from that process of elimination, you ended up playing Prism. And why is Prism so good? Well, first thing, you have like so many cards that just searches your ride-up engine. You don't really care what you ride. And it's so easy to get. There are so many ways to get your grade 3 vert before getting there. And every turn can be as impactful as the game goes. It's just, the deck gives so much buffer to the player, and you can feel always comfortable how bad the situation goes. You never feel it's that terrible. Your opponent can get super lucky with triggers, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, that sort of safety net that it gives probably is the main reason why we pick it up to these long round tournaments.
But I mean, like when you look at it in terms of power, maybe it's the highest, but in terms of consistency, it's still the best. And I mean, going into this, we did expect like lots of rounds. Yeah. I guess like the other question is, there's two people here that took Angel Feathers as well. Why Angel Feathers? And I know that the builds are slightly different. Tyler took kind of the one that we've been seeing, like the Uzume one from WGP, and he top 8'd with that in EU. But Steven took the took a different one with the extra 2K boost, grade 2 booster. I mean, and I think that could be like the definitive build going forward for Angel Feather. How about we start with Tyler and kind of see how why Angel Feather? You know.
I took Angels because like I was gonna play all 3 region and I needed like a tournament to take a break from like all the thinking. So I played Angels like the most so far since like the Spring Fest, so I was pretty comfortable with the deck. Surprisingly though, because I haven't had too much time lately, did almost no play testing, so I just basically copied Uzume's list and then played that.
Yeah.
Definitely would have considered the grade 2 booster, and actually put it in my deck now. I cut the meta angel, and I should have played that for sure.
Okay. Did you find like playing that Uzume build, you sometimes felt like you lacked finishing power?
Yeah, like Hamiel, like for me, only swung like 60 to 80k on average, which is on the lower end. Compared to Steven, who hits like 160k maybe. But definitely is a very consistent build though. You can get the setup pretty easily, and you'll have no soul problems usually.
Okay, all right, Steven, let's talk about big crits, big power.
Boy, damage. Send you off the flying. Send you to the Shadow Realm. Your Feather, honestly, I feel like it's a lot more fun than Prism. Also, I'll be quite honest with you guys. I'd rather play the Angel Mirror rather than the Prism Mirror any day of my life. Because the Prism Mirror, you literally send yourself straight to time, and that's the worst possible way to go out. Other than that, Angel Feather, I felt like was a deck that just stomps out any rogue decks that weren't playing counterchargers. Also, if we're playing open deck lists, you already know. If you looked at a Prism list and they weren't playing Spiana or something, you can send them straight to the Shadow Realm, man. You just put them to 2, live just one turn. If they play like a rookie player, and they use all their counterblast by the first grade 3 ride, you already know like the rest of their game is gonna be booty.
I have to say,
also because it was open deck list, you can also check if they're playing Heal Guardians or not.
Yes.
Yeah, when you go first.
Heal Guardians, oh my god. If you looked at their deck and they weren't playing Heal Guardians and you rolled the die and you went first, they better hope to God that you're drier than the Sahara Desert. Otherwise, those old stars. Bye. That's all it is. Other than that, I did test the build that Tyler played. 100%, I felt like, yeah, it was lacking a lot of power, especially against the Prism matchup. God forbid that card Ellie. I swear to God, that card needs to get banned in every single format. Like, as a G Guardian, it's too good. As a grade 1, it's too good. Oh my god, it's just horrible. I also think that's why like Prism was one of the the best decks to choose to bring to the event as well. Just because if you lose a trigger out, you can always bounce it with Vert, or you get Ellie's, you can bounce it back to your hand. That's extra guard against Hemios. And it just makes it so much harder for Angel Fighters to kill Prism decks. That's why I thought it was the best thing to bring. Other than that, why I chose to play Carmine Nurse was due to that reason. The fact that I could not get over that guard threshold that Vert always had, or Prism's always had. Tested a lot with Kevin Cho, tested a lot with Solemn. Started to notice that, they can survive my 96k Hemules like two times. That's crazy. And if they can survive my 96k Hemules with Carmine Nurse, then I have no idea how people who were playing Tyler's list was able to kill Prisms.
I think as well, specifically, like a lot of the builds going around for the considered to be flex slots of the decks were pretty much running the cards that were in the instance that they were concerning that they were running into soul issues and things late game, and that seemed to be the mentality focus right of the decks of a lot of the Gabriel players, to think that the later this game goes, I might be running out of soul with all the cards that are soul lasting and everything. So running grade 1 that goes into soul is a helpful mitigation for that. But on the flip side as well, then you're still aiming for a late game then, right? Unlike what Steven was going for, which is how am I killing them as fast as possible and as best as possible in most circumstances, right? With being a higher power threshold that they can achieve with the 20k booster grade 2. So I think that obviously paid off more for him in the fact that he has better kill potential in all stages of the game, rather than worrying about the cards that will be potentially helping you in the later stage of the game in case you might be reaching deck out or running out of soul, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Even then, even if you didn't have to go for the Hemio play while damage denying, you can always just play the normal game. Spread out your crits and just push them to 4, and then later on just do your rescue checks. Spread your crits everywhere, and then play Carmine Nurse down as a 29k booster, because at the end of the day, a 29k booster is still fat, especially if you're swinging 3 columns with 2 crits. That's going to be lethal where you push them to 4. That's still very deadly.
Especially with Gabriel's plus 10 to the front row, it's essentially without any triggers a 30k buff to that column with the grade 2 booster. So it's pretty insane.
Exactly.
Okay. I think it really shows as well. There were a lot of Angel Feather players that did join, but in all the tops, right, there were only 2 tops, and that was pretty much Tyler and Steven. And yeah, I guess you guys got something right. And I mean, Steven's still like 100%. He joins a tournament and he tops the tournament, right? So his conversion rate is pretty insane. So yeah, let's kind of move on then. Here's a question for all you guys out there: if you could, with this kind of hindsight now, would you change any of your deck choices going into some of your tournaments? I know some of your 24-hour guys, you played all the tournaments. Would you have changed some of your deck choices going into some of them?
I think I would have changed mine. I had a thought of bringing Gabriel, but the reason why I didn't bring it was because I didn't get Clan Collection. Yeah, that was the only thing stopping me. I think it's because the previous season I played Prism and I wanted to play something different. Okay. It got kind of stale, and that's kind of how the state of V Premium is at the moment. Nothing really changed. So, you know, having a different feel to a different deck, having to learn a different deck made the experience a little bit more fun. But then again, the variation of our Prism deck this time is a little bit different from what we had last time. But yeah, I would have definitely changed to Gabriel, and it's probably less brain intensive. And like Steven said, I'd rather play the Gabriel mirror than playing a Prism mirror for sure.
Yeah, I think like the overall skill level of players have gone up as well, because you do have a year to play the metagame that really hasn't changed, right? To play this format. So I guess like before you could play a Prism mirror, right? And it'd be like, yeah, it's not great, but you know, there's still something you can do to outplay your opponent, right? But I think nowadays everyone has just gotten good enough that you're not really piloting the deck anymore. It's just you're flipping the top. Is it?
Yeah. Since like it's been like what 1.5 years if you count like Luard, Prism, even Spectral, though we don't see too many of them. But yeah, a lot of these decks are like hyper optimized. We've gone through so many like months with the same decks. We've seen like what gets played, which cards perform well. Everyone's deck's just like optimized. And plus Hill Guardians means you can't just like, push early and win sort of thing. The overall playing field is a bit, it's very fair for everyone, but it also makes it that much more difficult to win, because then when you take everything else out, you only have like trigger and great stuff that decides the winner, or like maybe going first in some cases.
Okay.
Yeah, and in that sense, I guess we've been playing Prism for so long. We've been playing a lot of the mirrors between ourselves, and we know how grindy it is. Same with Luard. Going back to the deck pick topic, yeah, I might consider playing something that's a bit faster. Maybe like I don't know, if I feel lucky, Plon or Grumbly.
Okay.
I think also to add on top of that, like because all these decks with all results from WGP, the JP side, BSFO, and locals and whatnot, lists are so optimized that the deck kind of plays itself. And because everything kind of plays itself, it's like you said, flip trigger and kind of win type thing. It's more reliant on that. So yeah, that just kind of evens or brings up the standards or the baseline of power level. Well, if you say like skill level, power level, whatever, in terms amongst players, it just makes it all that much harder to play.
Like the deck performance
it was before.
I think on the flip side of that as well is like looking at the fact that because all these lists now have been optimized for so long and everything is nearly stock standard, right? Either it's nearly at least 46 card mirrors in like pretty much most cases, right? Because there's usually just the flex slots that are adjustable for these interesting texts. But for the most part, and it's even evident like every or the top lists and everything, is that most lists are pretty much nearly the same, right? And so I think that from that, variance does play a heavy key part of it, but also player intuition and the ability and capacity to adapt to whatever situation is coming through, not just knowing what exactly the deck does, but properly responding to that, guarding correctly, reading the situation, planning turns ahead. All of these are key important details that players at the top really take into consideration and account to make sure that they're playing optimally and efficiently, even know exactly what actions are probably going to be taken by the opponent and potential situations coming out with triggers and things like that, right? You always need to be on that base and preparing for everything if you can. Obviously, situations can be out of control sometimes with the nature of the game, but that's what you should be trying to achieve as a player who's knowing everything about the format because it's so cut and clear at the moment. And that's pretty much what you have to look at, not necessarily builds, even though some are a bit varying at the moment to try new things. But for the most cookie cutter stuff, right, it's just making sure that you understand them properly and are playing correctly with those.
I guess also, I
was going to say, and just because of that reason, right, is that for me personally, that I picked Prism to be the consistent deck in that knowing in the mirror as well and other things that I played that deck a lot, knowing that I can adapt to the situations and play correctly is the reason why I stay with that. And I think with even like other decks in the consistent record, like even the Luard, right, Luard decks can be slightly variant, is just stay the consistent build or multi-tech build, just in a tournament like 9 rounds plus in top cut. You see with the like Luard lists, the ones that were top cut were mostly just purely optimized and consistent because they were worried about not riding drag hard. Yeah. And that paid off for them, right? Because it seemed like they didn't brick throughout the tournament. They kept riding the drag hard, doing what the deck wants and performing well because of it. And a lot of the decks that weren't running the cards that helped them get there just didn't seem to top apparently.
Okay. I guess another thing that really came up was, like we can say V is a rather sold format, but we saw some variants of Prism actually pop up, and like that Prism Highlander variant. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I can start with that. So we did notice the Prism Highlander deck, and it was one of the considerations going into the tournament. We reviewed. I think the first time we saw the deck was like the Hong Kong result a while ago. Actually, when we were doing top decks.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was like quite a wild take in the beginning, but the more you read into it, it sort of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have known just a pure Highlander build for quite a while, and we all know that the key component of that deck is Coutier, and it's just in Prism you sort of have some flex slots. Usually, just put in all the good cards like Ellie, Aqua, and Lizelot 4 copies each. What this deck does is take that consistency one step higher by adding an extra ceiling. You can get like some random free pluses here and there. With that said, we know Coutier is a card that does take extra time to resolve because you have to declare a card name, flip your top deck one by one, do it on camera, and shuffle. And if you do it like 2-3 times in a turn, the chance of you going to time is quite high. So In that into consideration, we sort of shelved the idea. We know the deck is potent, but the time factor is just a bit challenging if you're not fully familiar with the deck. But yeah, we've definitely seen players who like do really well with it, and you can tell by how fast they execute their turn. We see a lot of Prism hybrid players coming from Singapore, and one of the finalists in AO region. That deck, and we actually found out that that was the man himself who made the deck. He's the engineer.
Yeah,
Exactly, Man Long. So yeah, props to him for coming with the deck.
He came second in AO and then came top 8 in EU as well. So
Also, he top 8 in EU. So he definitely knows the deck inside out. He knows how to like perform with it. But for those who are not practiced with it, it can be quite a tough deck to pilot.
Okay.
I actually played against him during my EU matches.
Oh really?
But yeah, I think when we were talking about the option of looking into this deck, I kind of classified it as one of those decks that sort of belongs to the bracket where I classified Luard and Ron as well. It has a better power ceiling. Like in this case, it's in terms of like 3 pluses that you're getting than just pure Prism. And then it has the same issue as Luard or Plon with where you're sacrificing consistency for this extra power level, and then factoring the time problem that Kelvin was saying. That's that's the reason why I didn't want to take it.
Yeah, I look at it as like an imagery point as well. Is that the pure Prism list was a bit more of a small sort of like tight knit circle where everything is very centralized, right? And it has a lot of centralization, a bit of breathing room, but everything is pretty consistently tied together. Everything should be working the way it wants to, and the ceiling isn't as high, right? But with the Highlander variant, it's a lot wider circle in terms of things like obviously the ceiling of the power range the deck can get, the different options and utility it has. But obviously going from the smaller circle to a wider circle, there's a lot more room to sort of bounce around and even sort of like get away from the core central point that the deck was trying to do, right? So I might just be stuck out here sometimes with things like that, while missing sometimes the key crucial parts that the core center of the deck can bring. And that's pretty evident example, like with a lot of the lists, like the pure Prism list runs like, the 4 Aquas, the 4 Lieselots, the 4 Ellies, or Ellies are the same consistent, but the early game cards that can sort of mandate good aggression, good plussing, and it's a bit more RNG, obviously, because you're not, selectively getting Kutia. But it helps with a good early game for the pure build and make sure that like you're structurally doing what you want to do. Whereas obviously with the Prisms, it's more of the Prism Highlander, it's more of a late game philosophy where you start sort of advancing once you're starting the deck thinning, trying to arch to get the ball rolling. And once you start doing that, you're in a pretty good spot then, right? Because you've decked in enough. It's easy to find your pieces and start to get to a more advantage position from there. I guess the sort of like philosophy is sort of seeing at the balance of what sort of avenue you want to take, whether you're considering sort of playing the deck as a core centralized early game or something that is, if you're trying to reach the later game, you potentially have better sort of field to try and do what you want to do, right? And all these different pieces you could work with.
Kevin, did you play against that deck a lot in your regions? And how did you feel playing like the Prism Mirror against like a Prism Highlander?
I definitely feel like as long as they didn't brick or anything, or like anything didn't go like out of their way, like Utah missed, and it never missed, because they always decked in enough at that point. That deck had quite the advantage against regular Prism, to be honest, because it was just decked in like extremely hard, and it had all the benefits of the LEs and the binding and continuously bouncing. The only thing that it lacked was like good counter charge, like Steven pointed out. So I guess like I don't know. I think that deck is really strong in the Prism versus Prism Highlander mirror.
Okay, all right. I guess we talked a lot about the current metagame already. Let's kind of talk about the future a bit, right? V's been kind of the same for you. Next, I think the next projected ban list will be at the next kind of the how you call it, the conference, right? Probably I think it's sometime in February or March, and that is around the same time as the next clan collections get released. Do you guys think we actually need to hit anything? Do we need a small hit? Or do we just kind of wait for clan collection and see how that changes. Because we're actually going to see, they're going to do sneak previews of the card effects beforehand, right? So we can kind of gauge like how the format might change, if it's going to be like a big change, which kind of needs, or is it going to be like a small change, which then we're going to sit around playing Prism Mirrors all day in Hamiel. So what do you guys think? Should we start doing like small changes? I'm sure some of us can think of some small changes. I'll leave it to you guys, right? You know, so the Angel Feather players, you're gonna have to find maybe small changes or no changes, or just wait. And the Prism players, you guys can think of something too. All right. Who wants to start? Derek?
Sure. I don't actually think anything will change, unfortunately, because in terms of card design, I suspect Bushiroad will be releasing Clan Collection Volume 3 and 4 to increase that power ceiling for like some clans. Obviously, not favoring Bermuda and Angel Feather, potentially Golds as well, and Shadows. I think they're gonna look at bouncing or boosting other clans and their power ceiling, so that it kind of matches up with Prism, with Gavriel. It's pretty controversial to say that, but to keep like, I guess, the decks operational, right? It gives Gavriel a way to finish, if you think about it that way. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, you know, playing 3-line Vanguard, you might as well go to Standard and play Zorga. Like, so I think keeping Hamiel is okay, but you have to give everything else some way to be able to deal with it. And I think that's something that Clan Collection Volume 3 and Volume 4 would essentially provide.
I mean, we're seeing some promos as well being introduced that has some kind of interaction in V. So we're going the right spot. Yeah, Steve?
I guess also, just before anyone else adds, if we look at the previous promos that have came out recently, the Genesis one and the Gear Chronicle one, notice how they have interactions. So I think because they are starting to release these type of interactions, you might start to see more disruption that may be able to, you know, counter Hamiels or, you know, play against Prism and stop their advantage engine or whatever the case may be, right? So yeah, that just might be a way that Bushiroad kind of introduces a way to beat these decks and also boost other clans to get better.
Yeah, Steven, you were going to say something?
That because Guardians come.
Oh, you're gonna have to. I think you have to speak closer to the mic because you're cutting out a bit.
I think because with the addition of Heal Guardians, it's come a way where people feel more safe from things like Hamiel, things like early aggression from Prism with Lieselot, you know, their early grade 2 game. Do you think that's something that Bushiroad might make another like impact on, like maybe making something along the lines of crits that might do the same effect, just to give decks more of a defensive power increase rather than boosting their offensive power? Maybe Volume 3 and 4 might do something where they increase their defensive power so they can survive Prism's abilities or Hemiel's until they get their, you know, their spike in power, like, you know, Spectral Duke, where they can build Excel circles, Aggravate, where they can, you know, maybe even get off their massive Soul Blast. I think something like that is probably more beneficial as well. Then again, like, I don't know what kind of power increases they could give to all types of other decks, you know.
I think the defensive option is most likely happening because Bushiroad likes to create some sort of trigger in these collection type of product, and it's usually a trigger that every client will want to use.
Well, it seems to be the best
every single time, ever since Premium Collection, and even before then with those Giga related heals. Yeah, they're definitely going to print some sort of trigger effect, and that could be a step towards this increased defense that we're going to get.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's one type of card that every deck plays, and that's triggers. So it sort of makes sense. If you want to buff everything, you buff the triggers. But also, the new like boss units, they are like reverse units, right? And historically, they've been like LB4 units. So we'll see if they're gonna keep that sort of late game pressure sort of style of cards, or they're gonna like just change it completely. Will be interesting. But it's quite hard to imagine like something that will top the level of fourth generation, say like a Luard deck that can do like the explosiveness of like Melody first turn. So I'm sort of on the side of like, if they make something new, it can't be something that will buff the existing decks. It can't just be like one gets like cool new great ones that you can just like splash in.
Yeah. Toby, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I was like saying that's like it seems to be the case in history as well that when in some instances in the releases of Vanguard going ahead as a series, is that when things start to become problematic in terms of a bit of a power creep, for sure it seems to be doing something in terms of adding the defensive options, right? I think a pretty early on, pretty obvious part of this was upping the G-Zone count and then adding G-Guardians in. That actually helped pretty much all the range of every single deck, right, to have more defensive options in place, to pretty much not get blasted by giving your opponent first stride, right? Like was pretty much happening before G Guardians existed. And even more recently, again, obviously with the Heal Guardians come out, a similar sort of philosophy, right? This time reverse, right? When your opponent gets to go first and ride the grade 3 first with the markers, and how crazy that is when in comparison to striding in G, right? And the opponent gets to stride first. Heal Guardians are helping to mitigate that. And so I think that's a pretty good sort of market trend to go forward about how to sort of combat and face things that sort of seemingly problematic without just straight up inherently banning all these things out here and things like that, is to putting a more control on how the game itself is operating is really cool. And I think that the design philosophy of some of the promos coming out and the sort of defensive intuition that's like the Spike Brothers one that Derek forgot to mention as well, the Gears and the Genesis. Yeah, so like all of those sort of philosophy designs from those cards we've seen so far are really cool, especially just having them in the premium as well, about having that interaction and defensive capabilities to help sort of mitigate any sort of like the crazy things decks can do. And so I think that hopefully with that sort of design philosophy in mind, the R&D has been doing a good enough job to hopefully make 3 and 4 impactful in that range to help rebalance things out again, because 1 and 2 obviously didn't have too much of an impact besides like the Heal Guardian, some support cards. So they really need to actually make that impact to justify potentially not having a ban list at all, right? Leaving things as is. And if they do that, they really need set 3 and 4 to work. Otherwise, it's going to be a massive mess, right? And I don't think they're going to be able to justify doing that for the player base, especially after a year of the stale format, right? And the 6-month release set not having anything, meta contending relevant in the boss grade 3 rides for the pretty much all clans, right? All the decks that were topping in BRO were pretty much the same decks in BSFO, right? Except with the tech cards. And so you would have hoped that with Clan Collection 1 and 2, you would have seen more boss units of the decks being topping, but it didn't happen. So they really need to change it for 2022. Otherwise, it's going to look pretty grim.
Yeah, like honestly, the Clan Collection stuff, it's been overall, it's like a overall plus, as in it brings in a lot of fun to the community. Generally, there's some changes. Like even the last one we were seeing, okay, no new boss monsters, but still bringing in Heal Guardians, right? So overall, they've made like a decent impact. So hopefully, like the next set, I guess, will have a nice impact as well, in a positive way, because I think the Clan Collections kind of turned the V format from like a toxic kind of format where you're like, oh yeah, buy the newest set, Luard, like OP, into like actually a fun set that a lot of people are actually having fun with right now. So yeah, I think it should be good. Any other thoughts on V currently? Any guys out there?
So, hot take. We didn't Rollock in V.
Rollock in V. Okay.
Or I don't know, buff quick shields to like 15k or something.
That'd be cool. I like that. I like that idea. But yeah.
Well, it could be.
I think personally, V collection, so far has been a step in the right direction. We've had it for what, 2 years now? I don't remember honestly, but I think it steps in the right direction. My only problem is like I don't feel like they're moving in that direction quite as fast as like desired personally, because like we've dealt with Prism. Prism's been what, through two V collections now.
Yeah, but that's like a problem with the V collection, right? Because it's coming out one in 6 months. So if the V collection doesn't change the format as impactful as the one that we just had, it'll be the same format. And honestly, like the first one people said wouldn't have an impact, but it did, right? But in the second one, people went, the Heal Guardians are really good, but these wouldn't make an impact, and it didn't, right? So,
it's just we look at it and it's just like the Heal Guardians, phenomenal additions. I think they were by far like they might be my favorite card design Bushi's ever done.
Yeah.
I think it's a very unique take on everything. The fact making a grade 3 trigger, and anything like that. Because honestly, I play Gear Chronicle mainly, so like that card can be pitched for Chronojet skill. Like that card's cool. Like that card to me is just something that's phenomenal. And I hope they do something new and like sort of like cool with this set 3 and 4. I'm a huge fan of Lukier. I hope Reverse Lukier does something great. Honestly, like that's
all this thumbs up.
I just after seeing that like the Gear Chronicle was a Steam girl, I was like, all right, well, there's probably not more jet support for a while, so I'm gonna have to jump to a different clan. Let's go to Pale Moon. Holding some SPs and stuff. Let's play this deck and. Nightmare or not Nightmare else. Silverthorn getting a counter charger might be like some of the best news I've ever heard in my life. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited for what the future holds. I'm hoping set 3 and 4 really does bring us out of this like I don't want to call it a stranglehold, but like it feels
it's a bit
like
stagnant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little stagnant. I'm kind of over this whole like, if you're not playing Prism and you see Prism and you're not playing Gabriel, it's like, all right, buddy, I've got bad news.
I think this year has been a bit of an experiment because we had the Mori team do a bunch of things, and
I just think like,
and I mean it's just you don't want to nudge power too far, but at the same time you don't want to nudge power too soft. So I think Clan Collection 3 will kind of just they kind of know how far they can push things and how far they don't want to like not push things, right? So let's kind of see how it goes. And so far, I mean, the card previews, right? Have been, I guess, pretty promising, right? We've been going, wow, that seems interesting. I can't wait to see the actual cards, right? But yeah. Any other thoughts on the topic, or
what if they had different gifts? What if the reverse units have different gifts?
I mean, we're entering the what if land now, but reverse units, it's
for sure. Like what if I was just sitting here thinking, I was like, man, what if like. What if Raging Form has an Excel gift on it?
They could introduce reverse gifts. Reverse gifts.
That'd be cool.
Dark Synchro.
Let's see something cool. Dark Synchro.
Reverse gift.
Hey, Dark Synchro is that effect that people saw in the anime. Like, this is so cool, but it never got revealed.
Yeah, we get something completely different. It's just
they
like, all right,
seeds instead, which was arguably a better mechanic. Was it? I don't know. I never played that. You guys would know. Any
something, I was going to say something that's like actually potentially worrying about the Clan Collection 3 and 4, especially in the point when they're trying to push forward the things that all these cool new original units, right? Like a lot of these cool cards are getting reverse units for the V series and reverse units for the first time, and they seem to be the powerhouse of those units and potentially even the decks themselves. Is that with that sort of mentality and say with reverse of being this cool new thing that's coming in for V to being a strong powerhouse, there's one little notion I'm like kind of worried about where a deck might pick up again. Can anyone give an answer for the class what they'd be worried about if reverse comes back?
Chaos Breaker.
Chaos Breaker? Yeah.
Chaos Breaker.
I don't see that as a problem at all.
It
was good.
That as a problem.
It's like we say we want interaction, but is Chaos Breaker the interaction that you want? Oh, your card unlocks PS4.
Dude, we're only getting Nebula Lord. It's not going to be an issue. Trust me.
Oh,
Nope.
Trust. I have no bias. No bias.
Glendios V is coming, guys. Prepare.
Stand by that lock. Lock and G arrow is like the most impressive thing. It's like, leave me alone. Just get away from me.
Well, so
Just
far,
looking-
yeah.
I was going to say, just looking at the past state, right? Like when Reverse Unit was the original concept, right? And what happened when Chaos Breaker came out? Reverse decks tanked. They suffered super hard. Chaos Breaker wrecked everything because everyone wanted to be reverse, right? Because all their best effects were doing the reverse skills. And so that's like my sort of like worrying sort of state of how the game. So they go again, Chaos Breakers. Chaos Breaker originally like made a lot of people leave the game, if I remember correctly. People telling me about because I wasn't exactly playing back then. It was like that bad to play against. And if it's going to be sort of like a similar sort of aspect again, I hope Bushy is good enough intuitively to like know that decks don't get that screwed over by Chaos when they're focusing on reverse. But if it could be a problem, then a lot of players inherently like Chaos isn't going to be probably broken, right? But people just left because Chaos as a sort of playstyle, no one liked to go against it, right? Like, people hated it, people being locked out of the game. So it could be like a detrimental thing to the format again. We'll see. It might not be, it might be, but this could be a worrying thing that's interesting to talk about at least.
Yeah, I think.
Hey, it's better than Prism mirrors, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What's
I mean,
happening in reverse is Glendios.
I mean, I think it should be fine, right? Because I know Kelvin lived through the Chaos Breaker era and the Glendios era, and he hasn't quit yet, right? He
It's like,
played
I don't know if I
Novograph.
call that. I don't know if I call that like living. I would say like I was like crawling through that era.
I think you just stopped
Surviving,
playing.
finding your way on the ground.
But, yeah.
It was so hard to find games back then. But no, I think so far they've actually balanced like V-Lock pretty well. Because if we look at Chaos, it's pretty bad, right? It's pretty. It's doing pretty terribly. So.
Oh wait, what? You're unlocking your turn? Oh, guess you lose your gift.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, take that, nerd.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. Hopefully, they have a better grasp on how to implement lock.
I hope they test. That's all I hope for.
You hope they
yes,
test. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, everyone's going to be playing Chaos. So
Better stock up.
better stock up, right?
Right.
I guess anything else you want to add about V before maybe we end it? Because I think it's just a lot of it's been kind of talked about already.
I think there's probably just one small point is that people are just looking at the grand scheme of like the three formats, right? You have your standard at the moment, the V Premium and the Premium. A lot of people are still nestling in this very net just for the one reason, right? It's because it's the one format without the over trigger, right? Like, it's just like one of the sort of mental notes that most people sort of make and sort of like have an explanation as to why they enjoy V Premium the most at the moment is because they can't like be immediately ward off by some random RNG element, right? I think that's sort of the thing that sort of just like
We had over 300, or was it 350, 360 participants for the NA region of V?
Yeah, 360 signed up and
watch.
320 checked in, I think.
And that's probably one of the biggest show up we've ever had for like any Vanguard tournament. Like
Online.
Online.
Yeah.
did we get such a showing for BSFO?
No.
Yeah.
No.
NA's always been that bigger region though. Like they usually have a lot of participants and everything, so it makes the most sense for NA people to have that higher number cap, right? But yeah, for like BSFO as well, comparing that to now, it's still a big number.
Yeah, and I guess it just... I mean, they're like, V's kind of in this renaissance where they're bringing in all the old favorites, the nostalgia train, right? So they're like, yeah, you remember these guys? No, I don't, but it looks really cool, because, Limit Break was cool, right? But, no, the Ty Kaiser or, like, Chaos Rick, I'm definitely in. So, yeah, it's in that phase, and everyone kind of is hyping it up, so... it's got a few things going for it, right? It's got a few things.
A good future,
and a good past, relatively.
I believe it.
Relatively
You're right. I agree with that.
I honestly still think I hope that V can still survive as a format, especially when you go back to IRL events, right? Because it's super hard, right? Especially over a weekend period to try and balance three different formats when you only have a weekend with 2 days, right? So unless they start doing massive 3-day blocks where they block out a Friday or a Monday for some reason, otherwise you're gonna have to be sacrificing potentially one of the formats on one of the 2 days, right? Depending on how they do it. So that is still a worrying aspect, right? Because the good thing about the online events is that you have the capacity to play everyone that you want, right? Like that's just the worrying thing about going IRL again. It's like you might have to sacrifice one tournament when you might not want to.
Yeah, I'll just drop a real bomb here. You don't have to deal with venue hire with online events.
That's
I'll
right.
leave it at that.
That's right. And like likely if they're gonna host 3 events in a real life tournament, the day that will be sacrificed is the premium day, right? Because it'll just be premium v premium the same day. Or otherwise they only run 2 events over the weekend. Because they're not gonna cut standard, I'm pretty sure, right? They're gonna go you run standard and you pick one up, pick something else, and Weiss on the side.
Yeah. You always support
Australia.
Yeah, except Australia.
You
We're gonna have
always
4-day
support-
tournaments.
I was gonna say, it's pretty much with all card game companies. You always support the main money bringing in format, right? Your standard at the moment, everything's been up to date with current releases to sort of incentivize people to keep buying product, and that's like where their main focus is usually lying.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. I think that's a pretty good place to end, and I guess the V discussions, because this is also standard after a break. Anything you guys want to say? Shout outs? Should we just start from the top? Top left again?
Yeah. So I guess like a quick little I think these were run a lot smoother than the previous ones. I think they learned a lot. Shout outs to them. Shout outs to ENTCG. Shout outs to was it Beast? Is that the one that did NA?
Beast from the East. Yeah.
That's a good name. And then I can't remember the AO.
It's the same company as the NA one.
Oh, really? Sick.
Yeah.
Hot. Shout outs to those people. Shout outs to the judges. I got some incredible stories from this. Like we had a running joke, but that's a good one. But just all in all, just shout outs to everybody that played. Shout outs to the round 9. Shout outs to everybody at WC, Kevin. Obviously, congrats to winning. Everybody here, congrats to getting top 8. Phenomenal job.
Derek?
So good job to Beast from the East or Elephant and ENTCG for a second successful week. To all the judges, tournament organizers, and everyone behind the scenes, the commentators, and yeah, all those guys. Shout out to all my opponents who had personal talks with me through 24, 25 rounds of the weekend. Got to meet some of you guys and kind of talk normal life stories and not just V premium stuff. That was pretty cool. And congrats to Cho and then the rest of you guys for winning and topping, and wait a month and hopefully I'll be there.
Well, you got it.
Calvin?
I've said it last week, I'll say it again. So big shout outs to all the WCC members making the weekend awesome. And also just all the staff, judge, everyone who runs the behind the scenes at Bushiroads, because events like so amazing this time. But one more to add this time, I have to give a shout out to actually Duro and Echo for giving me my second Dino PTSD. Yeah, those double front is brutal.
Wow, you suck at facing Dinos, dude.
I really just I don't know. I just can't face Dinos. It's like the bane of my existence.
Before it was Neo Nectar, and now it's Dinos.
I'm bad against these space decks.
All right, cool. Kevin, how about you?
I also want to shout out to all the judges and organizers. Like this event was run like really, really well. They made a lot of good improvements. And yeah, it was just fantastic. And then shout out to all my friends at home because a lot of them tuned into the stream, and I really appreciate it. And then everyone else is in this room or on the team, right? Like I owe a lot of it to my teammates and you guys.
Thank you. Mark, what about you?
Shout out to our champion, our top 2, top 3, top A. You guys did what I didn't do. Good stuff. And yeah, of course, shout out to our organizer, judges. They did an amazing job. We said it last week. The event was run pretty smoothly. And then if you think about V, which definitely had a much higher turn up than premium. So that's just extra effort required from their end, and they executed that part without too much issues. So yeah, good stuff, and which tells us that we're probably looking at a good running for D as well in coming up in like 3 or 4 weeks.
They'll need it.
Next year.
There's a good chance there's going to be even higher numbers for overdress, right?
Yeah.
So keep up the good work from all the organizers and judges, and we'll look forward to this.
All right, Steven, how about you?
I want to give first shoutouts to all the Shield staff and judges for being,
Oh, you're cutting out again, sorry.
I want to give a shout out to all the Bushiroad staff and the judges for being so great at their job and so attentive to all the things that were going on, especially, because Discord was being really buggy today on day 2 of V Premium. People were very understanding of disconnection issues, especially if, people from different regions of the world were tuning in at the same time with the stream. The casters and the judges were all accommodating. They all understood. They did the correct protocols of, whenever a stream would shut down or whenever a game would shut down. Really appreciate that, as well as a shout out to all my WCC boys. You guys all made it a fun time during our downtimes within the games. Gotta love my Demseki boys.
Demseki
boys.
You have to say it.
Cool. All right, Toby.
I just want to give a big shout out to pretty much all of my opponents throughout the tournament, throughout all 3 regions. Even though I was pretty sleep deprived and tired, I had an enjoyable experience in pretty much all the rounds. They were all really good people, so shout out to all the guys that I versed. I just want to have a big shout out to the team as well, especially just doing so well for this weekend as well. NA V Premium seems to be pretty good for us as a team. BSFO last time we had 4 people. Sorry, 5 people. We had 5 people was pretty good, and this time we had 4. So we turned out to be pretty well in this sort of region. So sort of a big shout out and sort of congratulations to everyone there. And yeah, I just want to give a personal shout out to my friend Regan to help me borrow Prisms in the first place so I could actually play and do well in the event. And yeah, for all the staff and all the people supporting the team and the people behind the scenes, the staff, everything too, people watching the streams and everything, just supporting Bushiroad and making sure that all these events happen in the first place with the attention and the energy involved. And yeah, it's just been a really great series so far. So I hope to continue as well, understand it, and even Weiss as well, if people are so inclined.
I mean, we pretty much had a mini bottom bracket WCC internal bracket, right? And Kevin just killed everyone there. the WCC
Slayer.
So to take us all back out, just die.
Yeah. Tyler? You?
I just want to shout out to all WCC for making the weekend really fun. Also want to shout out all my opponents. They all were very nice throughout all 3 regions. Like, I didn't fight anyone toxic at all. I also want to shout out all my local peeps for helping me playtest with what little time I had. And also all the Bushiroad staff, head judges, TO, especially the NNA's ones for dealing with all our Demsekis during Top Cut. Just giving us a warning sometime, maybe. But yeah.
And I just like to point out, everyone who topped this weekend form a T Tetris block at the bottom.
Yeah.
T for topping, guys. All right, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
I just like to thank everyone for coming as well to have that little nice post BRO wrap up discussion. Congrats again, the top 3, Kevin, Steven, and Toby as well, and Tyler topping, getting the tops. And then thanks for the production staff as well for running everything in the background, and because I was doing commentary and things, and played some of the opponents too, so they were really nice. But yeah, that is it. We had a fun discussion, hopefully, for V. And I guess we'll see you in a month for Standard, right? So, yeah. I guess everyone just sign off and say goodbye. And, yeah.
Yes.
Catch you guys next time.